Found some berries. Hopefully they're not poisonous. I'm out doing a nice long walk. I feel really tired today. Not really tired, pretty tired. And I slept 13 hours last night from like 9:30 p.m. to 10:30 a.m. And it's kind of good because at this point in time in my bipolar biorhythm, I'd likely be sleeping like 6 to 8 hours, which is very little compared to 12 to 13 or 10 to 13 hours. And then I get to a point where I can't sleep at all. And I've already had those blips where I couldn't sleep or couldn't fall into sleep. And I was able to take supplements to fall asleep. So I wonder if I'm even over the hump of the crisis. I could be in the post-crisis fallout where I'm more tired and a little bit lower mood. And I did not drink coffee yesterday, and that probably has an effect too. I'm going to try and not drink coffee this week, just in case it leads to that sort of anxiety feeling. And I was trying not to take extra uppers like tyrosine or methyl, but it might be a little bit hard to get through the week if I don't take some at some point. I don't want to feel like really low, but I don't want to feel that anxiety feeling. So that anxiety feeling indicates that I haven't yet hit the crisis. So I really don't know what the best thing to do is, but I do need to remember that this point in time, right now, this next month or so is really about navigating the crisis. And I'm a little bit distracted by other dynamics. But the thing is, during a crisis, those other dynamics kind of come in and are really distracting. So it could be a good sign that I'm a little distracted by other dynamics in the meanwhile, slowly moving towards the crisis point. Or maybe it's all kind of diluted out, not as in diluted as in delusional, but dilute, like it won't be as bad because it's sort of spread out. And I'm not doing anything, so I'm feeling like more tired, maybe not as much executive functioning, but since I haven't been working on doing all this stuff, it doesn't really feel substantially different, like this big, having trouble finding my words, like this big difference, because I was functioning so high, like doing way too much on the computer and stuff, and then all of a sudden not being able to do that. Well, I haven't really been doing that much on the computer, so if there was all of a sudden an less ability to do it, I'm not really putting that much energy into doing stuff on the computer anyway. So I think I'm doing pretty well. I am practicing what I wanted to practice, which was be outside with the energy and not inside. And this might be one of the first times that the crisis is during a time when I can really be outside most of the time because it's so nice out. Usually it's in the winter when being on the computer is one of the main things one can do with one's time. So I don't know. I'm wandering, and my eyes feel a bit tired. So, being that I felt this way today, I could take a bit of an upper on Wednesday or something, like methyl, because I will be around people, and see how it goes. Today and tomorrow I'll mainly be by myself, so it doesn't really matter if my brain's tired. But I don't know if it's not good to nip something in the butt, like let the brain go into a bit of a lower state. Is it better to keep it balanced by always navigating by taking something to nip it in the butt, or is it better to sometimes let the brain go into the lower state? I don't know. like that experiment would be okay. I'm not going to take any kind of uppers for the week and then see if I go lower and lower into sort of a bit depressed. I don't know if it's depressed or more just sort of introspective and inward with the past. Finding that as I walk, I'm sort of walking off past energy that is wanting to come in. So we'll see. Found a spot on the grass. It's really cool because there's all this long grass around me. And can you hear all the insects? Some of them are like they're coming in for a landing. I don't know if this mic picks it up. It's cool. I wonder who else is giving the earth a hug right now. Intentionally. There is someone else hugging the earth. More people in the middle of the grass. Last night was the first night that I forgot to take my evening vitamins. I was having dinner, I was having my hummus and carrots. Hummus. And I totally forgot about my evening vitamins. And I didn't remember until around 8:30 when I was so tired that I just wanted to go to sleep. So I took my sleep vitamins and went to sleep. So tonight I am remembering to take my evening supplements and vitamins and just making note of the forgetfulness, because that's something I've done every day for months, like since December 1st, and it's almost June 1st. And so to forget about that is an indication of forgetfulness. So this is when I need to be a little bit more intentional and remember the basics like eating, sleeping, taking the supplements I'm taking, and getting myself to sanctuary. And that's all I really need to concern myself with for the most part. Time for a bit of a walk in the park. Yesterday I did 16,000 steps. That was my third highest day in the month of May. And I won't get that many today, but I want to do a couple laps of this trail. And yesterday was interesting because I was at the park and I was sort of pondering this interaction that I was going to have and wondering if it will go one of two ways. And thinking that I could carry a certain perspective to the conversation and make it go one way, or carry a certain perspective and make it go the other way in a more positive direction. And the negative direction had some positives too, but it was more moving away. And I was sort of feeling the negative, like, I just want to say blah and just go on my way. And I was realizing that somehow I needed to get from a state of mind that was that negative to a space in consciousness where it was more likely that the positive scenario would happen. But at the beginning of the day, I just felt mainly the negative scenario. And I was kind of fine with that unfolding, but I knew it was possible to unfold something else. And I was kind of thinking about Dr. David Hawkins' scale of consciousness, where he shows the different levels. And one might think if one is in a state of lower consciousness, like maybe anger, then one can do some kind of mental martial arts or internal mental movements to finally rationalize to a point where one is in a higher state of consciousness, like courage or willingness, something like that. And then I decided I was going to walk. And as I walked and walked and walked and walked some more, there was a little bit of internal inquiry, but it was mostly physical movement of the body. So in the process of moving my body and being in nature, something that is highly conscious itself, a high level of consciousness itself, slowly over the day, I felt consciousness, my level of consciousness shift. So it wasn't a matter of trying to think my way through it or something like that, but it was a matter of moving, walking. And walking could be considered a very high-level conscious activity. We consider it very mundane, but it's so basic to human nature and physiology. We don't do enough of it anymore. And then to walk in nature, oftentimes I feel pretty good. So I walk through nature, I feel good, and I don't necessarily feel that much different because my state of consciousness is pretty high and it's sort of congruent with walking in nature. So it just sort of resonates. Whereas I felt yesterday like it really raised my level of consciousness. Saying my level of consciousness isn't really correct, but the level of consciousness that one has access to. And by the end of the day, I felt good, and I did some earthing. So I just had an interaction, and I feel fine. I had an interaction yesterday and one today, and I feel fine, but I also know like doing some walking in nature will help to neutralize whatever might be there that I'm not really aware of. So yeah, it was kind of cool. It was sort of an experience like the one I'm hoping to create soon, which is being in nature in a high level of consciousness to see if it neutralizes some of the lower energies that will come into consciousness and awareness possibly really soon. And I'm not sure that what I've been talking about lately is with the support of certain nutrients and supplements, it's possible that bits of that have been coming into awareness along the way lately. It's hard to say. I don't know, but I'm feeling pretty strong, but this feeling of feeling strong could be a sign of impending doom. But at the same time, I do realize that I haven't put energy into creating some kind of big plan, some kind of big pattern, which will only implode and fall apart.
You never look at the same stream twice. If that's true, how is it that we get bored? When everything is always new. I'm bored and cry, same old, same old. There's no such thing as same old.
I took some methylfolate this morning, and I think that could be a good supplement for me. I came across an article by Dr. Mercola saying the same thing that I read in that book, Dirty Genes, that folic acid isn't good. And he said from this day forward, cut out folic acid, take methylfolate. So I think it really helps because methylfolate is for methylation, which is part of what is necessary for epigenetic expression. So the changing of DNA expression. And what is part of what creates what am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say is that it's possible that the equivalent of seeing at the DNA level or adjusting to what we see, the requirement for that is folate. Now that's an oversimplification, but imagine at the macro level I see something, I perceive something, and I need to change my behavior because of it. Say I see a bike coming straight at me. Now if I don't have the muscles to move out of the way, I can't adjust according to that perception. Now we don't really know what's going on at the level of the brain cells, but if the brain sees something, perceives something that it needs to adjust to, but it doesn't have the methylator, the methyl molecule, in order to change the DNA expression, like maybe it's part of the switch, then it can't change. So what happens is the brain is maybe seeing things quite often that it needs to adjust to on a brain cell level, on a genetic level, which is what would change the brain cells. There's an equivalent genetic change that happens in order to change the way the brain cells are moving or the structure of the brain cells or what have you. But if there's some kind of seeing on the macro level with the eyes, gets to the brain, but there's no molecule for that epigenetic change, then whatever selective pressure in the environment is causing the perception of the need for change. If there isn't the molecules of change, then it can't change. And then that might actually build up a sort of pressure inside that the brain cells are seeing the need to change, but there isn't the molecules necessary, or there aren't the molecules necessary to facilitate that change. And that could be part of what causes stress at some level. The level of the brain cells, they're stressed out because they need to change, but they can't. They can't adapt, they can't adjust fast enough. And it could be that, the powers that be said, hey, folic acid messes up that process, let's stick it in all the grains and let's make people addicted to grains and sugar. Which, then we're seeing things, but the brain cells can't change. So maybe this could be even part of why so often, we in our thought process think, I need to change this, I need to change that. But if we don't have the methylfolate or the whatever for the brain cells to make the change, if our brain cells can't change, then how can our behaviors change? So that could be part of the conflict, All the human conflict could come down to folic acid instead of methylfolate. Obviously, it's not that simple. But what I've been investigating lately a lot is the correlation between the macro level of behavior and the micro level of the brain cells or genetics. And that's what they try to investigate in science, but oddly enough, a lot of the things they put out there as the mainstream information go counter to how we naturally work. And then, there are the chemical companies with the solution to the fact that we're all messed up, when really it's partly the misinformation, like, not getting enough sunlight is a big problem. Drinking fluoridated water, big problem. Controversy about the vaccines could be causing a problem. Who really knows what the problem is? Part of the problem is not seeing for oneself what is true and relying on those other sources and then blah blah. It's complex. But I think for me, it seems the days that I take methylfolate, I feel more adaptable and a little bit more up in consciousness. And it could be that part of being able to stay in higher levels of consciousness is the ability to quickly and fluidly process things that are challenging. Because if something challenging happens and I can't process and move with it, then that could cause the drop in consciousness. More so than trying to avoid all things that are so-called lower in consciousness, which is impossible. So being able to adapt right now, not 2 seconds from now, is key. And I think methylfolate could be one of the big players. And we'll see what happens in the next month for me. I was trying to sign on to iCloud on my computer, and the thing came up saying 2-factor authentication, blah blah. And it's like, you're trying to sign on near Montreal. And let me tell you, I am nowhere near Montreal. And then I did it at the coffee shop I was at, and it said, oh, you're near Vancouver Island. I am not near Vancouver Island either. So I didn't sign in because it's being weird. And this is the thing that happens sometimes. Technology glitches. And I think that's what happens when one is more in a space of being everything. Technology gets confused as to where and when you are, where and when in space-time you are, because you're kind of everywhere. So it's like, where the heck are you? Don't really know. And so we'll see how that plays out. I think it could be important to realize that sometimes technology gets confused. Not necessarily that one is confused. One can be quite rested in the knowing that one is the entire universe. And then, well, if technology gets confused sometimes, oh well. It's technology's problem, not the universe's problem. I was talking about the urgency thing. We just had to make a run for the can, like nobody's business. Seriously, I almost shit my pants. That almost happened the other day. I was in a residential neighborhood. I was like, oh, I'll stop at this park. And the door was locked for the washroom. And I was kind of prepared to go because I knew that washroom was there. It was locked, and I had to get in my car and drive into town to go, and I seriously almost went in my pants. So this doesn't usually happen ever, this urgency thing, but it's happening lately. And it reminds me of the first time I went into crisis. There was this needing to go like 10 times a day. I went down to 90 pounds. Couldn't keep anything in. Maybe this whole thing was a physical problem of some kind that was missed through testing. I don't know. Seriously, I contemplated going in the bushes because I still had like 10 more minutes to walk, and it was almost a bad decision not to go in the bushes when I could have. So I'm home now, and something interesting. When I was driving back from the park, I noticed that there's a barn, a white barn off the side of the road with a happy face on it. And I've driven on that road probably 100 times. 50 times to the park, 50 times back from the park, and I've never seen that. And what is kind of fascinating is today, bought some lottery tickets online, and I chose my numbers, and I drew a happy face to choose the numbers. Usually I kind of pick at random, or I have numbers that I pick, but today I drew this happy face, and then I see the barn with a happy face on it. So it made me kind of realize that a lot of times we think in terms of words or affirmations, and that will help us to see those aspects of reality. Like saying, I am this way or that way, that's good, then we'll see those good things in reality. But it works for drawing too, like drawing a happy face. And something interesting that I noticed, I got home, I sat on my couch, and I could feel that vibrating feeling. It's kind of a bad sign. And I can hear that noise, like that sound that I hear sometimes, and I haven't heard the sound in a while, like swirling around like this energy. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not sure if I made a bad decision. But it was likely going to happen anyway because I'm due to implode. So either way, it's okay. And I was just talking to myself about how does this little perturbation of the self or the me bring down the energy of the universe. But it's a pretty strong structure. I don't know, I guess we'll see. But maybe I can listen to the undifferentiated sound this time and feel the undifferentiated vibrations. And not let them create a story. They might have more of an effect on my body. Not sure. So I think I officially hit the wall. I can't sleep. I didn't get to the island. I had some really weird experiences. I might have to take some more meds, but I'm going to try and sleep on the couch here maybe without more meds and then take more if I have to. But I had some crazy weird experiences for sure. That sound is really loud. Trouble is if I take more meds it might be kind of hard to drive tomorrow and have to go to the dentist. Man. This is so hard. At least this time I'm not feeling fear really, but I can't sleep. There was a little bit of fear. I got up and I took more vitamins and I laid down and right away I went into this space where I was breathing like I was sleeping but I was awake. And then I was laying there sleeping but awake and I realized I was awake. And then my brain said, oh my God, you took too many vitamins. And then I woke up. But I was already awake. It was so bizarre. And then I was just trying to stay awake, even though I was already awake when I was sleeping. So it's like I can't go to sleep. And before that, I had a really strange experience where I again was awake. But I went into this death realm where my heart was fear. It was like, I have to medicate myself more. But I need to be able to drive, and I need to be able to be normal. I don't know about this. I don't like being in that dark room and awake. I gotta try and sleep. What's interesting about this video is that all points are low amplitude. The AF7, AF8, AF9, or whatever they're called, they're all low. When I've taken this before, when I've been in distress, usually the temporal lobes are really, really high amplitude. And so I was kind of surprised to see that all the lines, especially on that first screen, are quite small. And they stayed that way. So it's kind of telling me that the brain is in a different state. It's not in a distressed state. Perhaps it's not bringing in time. Perhaps it's fully awake. Maybe too awake. And I also took a recording that was sent to my Dropbox of the raw data. So these are the ones that I'm talking about mostly, that usually the TP9 and TP10 and AF8, I believe, are really, really high amplitude. Last night was really weird. I talked about it for a little bit last night. At a certain point in the night, I don't know what time that was. Let me check. Oh, I talked to myself at 1:30 in the morning. So it was still really early, and I didn't get to sleep till probably 7 o'clock in the morning. And I finally decided to take Zopiclone. And I haven't taken Zopiclone in years, probably like 6 years. I don't even know what the bottle says on it. Oh, that's Trazodone. I don't know where it went. I didn't want to take Trazodone because Trazodone is an SSRI, and then that would interfere with my ability to take St. John's wort and tryptophan. And, well, it was a really long night. I had those weird experiences where I felt like I was going to have a weird experience when I was falling asleep or trying to fall asleep. Like, everything got kind of wavy, like things were feeling like they were getting really movie. And so I turned over on my right side and I laid in a fetal position. And then all of a sudden at some point, like, I started breathing kind of like rhythmically, and then it felt like my heart, like there was all this energy, like the side of my heart, like it was just going like rapid firing. And as it was rapid firing, it was almost like a firework propelling me into space. It felt like I'd been propelled into space, and it was pitch black in the room. So like I didn't even know where I was or what was happening. It was really, really hard to describe. And I remember kind of feeling like I wanted it to stop, but also I didn't feel any fear. And it felt kind of like death, but there was no fear associated with it. So again, it's like this weird stuff happening, but no fear. And then at some point I remember it kind of like rubbed my eye, and I was like, oh, I didn't really mean to do that, because obviously that kind of stopped it. And that was kind of like subtly asking it to stop but not meaning to. And then I was trying to sleep after that, and that went on for a while. And then I was trying to sleep after that, and I just couldn't sleep. So I got up and I took another zinc, because I had only taken one, and I took one extra sunflower lecithin, and I took one extra taurine and an extra lithium orotate and a bit more glycine, something like that, nothing extravagant. And I laid down, and I felt like it was weird, because it was like right away, and I realized I was sleeping, but I was wide awake. Like, it felt like my eyes were open, I was wide awake, but my body was sleeping. So this brings in an element like, who is the I that's awake? I think that's the problem. There's some other element waking up. And that was awake, but my body, with that other sense of self, was asleep. You know, I heard myself breathing, and then I heard myself going like, and stuff like that. And I was like, this is just weird. And then I was like that. And then something in my mind said, you've taken too many supplements. I've taken too many supplements. I've got to medicate myself. And I woke up kind of like in a whirl. And there was like a tiny bit of fear, but like barely anything. It was kind of like, oh, that was weird. It was more like weird hearing the sound of my voice saying, you've taken too many supplements. You got to medicate yourself. And considering how the night went, had I listened to that at that point and taken some medication, maybe the night would have been better, and I wouldn't have missed out on the next day. Because I waited a while, and then I got up and I decided to take some D-serine for psychosis, even though I wasn't feeling anything psychotic. And then I took some inositol powder, and I took some clove oil, and I laid down on the couch, and I did feel a bit more relaxed, like I was able to maybe snooze a bit. I might have slept for an hour, I might have slept not at all, but I felt kind of more relaxed. That vibrating energy was there, but I still wasn't sleeping. And then I heard a toilet flush, and then I woke up, it was 4 a.m. I was like, okay, I really haven't slept. So I decided later on to take some of the branched chain amino acids. Even though I wasn't feeling super manic, I was feeling really like energetic and awake, and that should do something. So I took that in juice, and I noticed that the vibrating sensation like up here eventually went into my lower chakras, like my stomach, and kind of like right around my butthole. And it was like, oh, it's vibrating around those centers, and it felt like it was like releasing energy from there. So it is supposed to draw dopamine out of the brain and into the body or muscles or something like that. So it did have a sense of that, perhaps, and I still do hear that loud noise, that grindy energy, and I don't know if it's a sense of two realities mixing, yet I don't feel in conflict with that other reality. So the conversation I had to have, like, things feel kind of just fine, but I don't know if it's a relativity in consciousness thing, like by virtue of interacting with those in a slowed down reality, I'm even more speeded up, or interacting with that reality but being speeded up, I literally can't sleep. Or maybe that was the split, like I was sleeping. I was sleeping, but I wasn't okay with the fact that I was sleeping, but I was awake while I was sleeping. Maybe I'm supposed to get used to that. I didn't really like that. I kind of want to be asleep when I'm sleeping. It was really weird. And yeah, so the branched chain amino acids didn't put me to sleep. Nothing put me to sleep. And by the morning time, I started like crying and I was desperate. I was like, I just want to sleep. It was interesting because it wasn't like I just no longer want to live or crying about anything like that. I just wanted to sleep. So I finally took 2 more quetiapine, and it'd been hours later. Laid down, that didn't put me to sleep. And I was thinking, well, I'm not feeling anything psychosis-y. I might at some point if I don't sleep. I just really feel tired. And in the past, I haven't had good experience on Zopiclone, like when having psychosis and taking it to sleep. But I'm like feeling like I just plain old need to sleep, and this is a sleeping pill. So I took 2. It says take 1 to 2 as needed. Didn't really do anything after a while, but it did make me stop crying. And then I took 2 more, and I passed out all day. So had I known and just taken 2 to begin with, I probably would have slept all night and not missed a beat today. But I was trying, and had I listened to that initial voice in my head that just said, I need to medicate myself, is what it said. So, this really could be a clue that there is a time and a place for supplements, and there is a time and a place for medications. Like, supplements can tranquilize the brain, but I don't know if they can really slow it down with this whole relativity and consciousness possibility. So I feel like I need to get some more of those Zopiclones. And I slept all day, so for tonight, I'm going to try and take my supplements that I take and take the quetiapine and maybe take 1 Zopiclone or something and see if it makes me sleep. And I hope it does, because tomorrow I need to pack. And it's kind of, I was hoping that this kind of process would hold off, but this will make it harder to leave as it is. But that's just kind of the way it is. But yeah, total weird stuff. So yeah, I missed out on a dentist today and a dinner. And I'll probably have to pay for like a missed visit fee, but that's the thing with this thing happening. It always kind of messes up something, and there's some kind of cost of some kind. But it's so far, it still could turn into something scary, but so far it's a big win that there hasn't been any psychosis associated with not sleeping. Like last time in October, it was I couldn't sleep, and it was like scary stuff happening, and this time I was like I couldn't sleep, and then I went with this whole like rocket shipping into emptiness, which was kind of fun. Like it wasn't scary, it was interesting. So it's like the scary stuff isn't really there. Yeah, I don't know. I just hope tomorrow I have some semblance of myself back, that I'm able to pack and take it easy to try to get out of here. Because I could think, oh, I won't go because I wasn't sleeping, but if I have the tools to sleep, then it should be okay. I might not pack as much, like, I might just pack to keep it simple. Because if I go and I'm in a simple consciousness, then I won't really have the energy to be all fancy anyway. But it's so interesting how yesterday I was completely fine. Like, the only indications I had of this coming are a tiny bit of anxiety in my heart on Saturday and maybe a tiny bit in my stomach on like Thursday or Friday. And the timing of it all. And then poof, not being able to sleep last night. And last night was a full moon too. I did look that up. But, you know, maybe it's turned into a sleep problem. I do remember kind of talking to my heart a little bit before all this started last night, like, grow up, enough of this. Like, not wanting it to go into any kind of psychosis-y stuff, and it didn't. My brain just would not go to sleep. Well, I did go to sleep, just in a weird way. Maybe I need to be fine with that weird way of sleeping. It's like watching myself sleep. But I guess I get a little scared because I know that I have to sleep. So if I don't know that that's still sleep, it's all a learning process. And I'm wondering, well, the Zopicone prescription is from March 2015, and it's May 2018. So that shows you the last time I got prescribed that, and I didn't even take it then. I think I took it once in the hospital, and I didn't like it. But they gave me it, but I never took it. But it's good to hang on to old prescriptions just in case. But the thing I was thinking of is that I've talked about with myself how the process of so-called psychosis and then depression, I feel, is part of what happens because of the relativity in consciousness. So if I'm going at a speeded up consciousness in so-called mania, and then say I'm living with people who I know who are operating at consensus level, and I'm sort of doing my own thing in mania, and then when I interact with them, consciousness has to slow down really quickly, and then I probably manifest as moody in the way they see me, but really it's that my consciousness speed has to slow down. So I'm almost kind of moody that I have to communicate with somebody who just doesn't really get what I'm doing. Or if they were able to communicate at that level, then there'd be nothing to get all moody about. They would be happy with me. So anyway, besides that, so I experienced this sort of thing last night, but there was no process of psychosis and then depression, which could still happen, to accompany that. So, which often a psychosis and mania, they manifest as not being able to sleep. But mine was not being able to sleep, but without the psychosis and mania. And I'm wondering if part of that is because I wasn't doing anything beforehand to really create a strong sense of I doing something. So then when the crash came, or in this case, just my brain kind of being messed up and not being able to sleep, there was no real I story involved in that. It wasn't like, oh, I'm doing all this great stuff and oh, now I can't, so now I feel bad, so now there's this experience of psychosis or depression. But still, it seems that the brain and the being and the body do need a way to slow its down relative to others, because I did have an interaction with others yesterday, and it's about time for things to slow down again. And that could have been why I had that come to mind when I was in that sort of half asleep state that said, I need to medicate myself. That's what it said. It's not something that I would really think of myself per se, but it was kind of like saying, well, this is what it's going to slow it down, is taking these medications. So medications can be seen as putting the brakes on whether or not there's some kind of psychological symptomology or not. And so maybe if I don't have the psychological symptomology, I don't need the psychological meds, but maybe I need sleep meds, for example. I don't know. But we'll see. But what I'm saying is there's still this need to slow down, which I was able to do by taking the sleep meds. And the psychological stuff could still come out at a later point. I don't know. But I've never had that before where I was up like that. And the basic problem was that I just couldn't sleep. I almost imagined myself going to the psych ward being like, I can't sleep. And then I realized I can figure this problem out on my own. I can eventually make myself sleep. I can take the sleeping pills as a last resort. And maybe I would have gotten to that sooner had that first experience not been quite so weird. When it was like I laid down and I was asleep in 1 second. But I was awake. My body was asleep. I don't know, I'll have to do some pondering on that one. But I don't know if I don't know if I'm making the points clear about how I've been lately in terms of not building up an I. So then now it's time for that energy to slow down relatively, in relativity. But it's not really, there's no real psychological process involved as much as like a biological thing. Like the brain just wouldn't go to sleep. It's too awake. It's too awake for this world. So gotta kind of tranquilize it into going to sleep. So we'll see if that changes what I need to do. And I think having taken the supplements, that's given my brain the capacity to build the structures it needs to feel safe and not create these epiphenomenon of psychological fears and things like that. Like when I knew that weird stuff was going to happen last night, I basically rolled over and got into a position that signified, okay, I'm like a fetus being reborn here. Do whatever you want. And it was weird. It really was. It wasn't a matter of like thinking. It was like a body and consciousness phenomenon. So I don't know if it's over, but that sound is still there. I do feel, though, that I do need to get out of here for sure. As long as I have a good sleep tonight, I think I'll be able to do that. So yeah, I think not creating anything, doing anything purposefully was helpful. If that was the most of it, then, if I can get over the worst of it and then go have a nice trip, that'll be nice. And also I have supplements to help neuroplasticity. I'm probably going to not take a bunch of the dopamine ones and see what happens. There are quite a few dopamine ones. I might switch away from those because those are kind of stimulating, and I did have coffee yesterday, and I don't know if that played into it, but I probably should have not had coffee. I feel like it's possible that like another layer of my brain woke up. Like something else was awakened. Yeah, hopefully I can try to go back to sleep pretty soon. One thing I didn't take was uridine. I didn't feel suicidal, so I didn't take the suicidal remedies. Except the inositol, I did take that because I looked it up on Google and it was supposed to be somewhat helpful for sleep. Tastes good too. It's kind of like icing sugar. Yeah, so tonight I'll take the same remedies. I'll take some inositol. I'll take some clove oil probably. And tomorrow I'll look at some new remedies as well. Not the stimulating ones like methylfolate though. I think my brain is really awake right now. It needs to settle into that and rest. And last night was the first night I was able to talk to myself while some of it was happening. And that's because there was no real I involved in it. And the I is the fear. So I think the stepwise thing that has been happening over time where the fear seems to have left, I think it's true. Otherwise, last night could have created all sorts of fearful stories. And it's so interesting to have an experience like this that could have so easily been some kind of thing like psychosis, and having it simply be, I had trouble sleeping. Truthfully, it was, I have trouble sleeping. It wasn't, I was having suicidal thoughts or anything like that at all. So if someone asked me, it's like, yeah, I had trouble sleeping. Well, I had that weird, interesting stuff, but there was no scary stuff. And so then if that's what it is, then it gets to a point where it's not even something that one feels one needs to hide from someone. It's like, yeah, sometimes I have trouble sleeping. Who knows? So I'm struggling to get things done a little bit today because I took the regular sleep stuff last night plus 1 Zopicone, unlike the morning before where I took 4, which was a little much, but I took 2 and it didn't do anything. I took 2 more and then I fell asleep all day. I was awake for a few hours and then I went back to sleep at night. But today I'm doing laundry and I'm supposed to be packing to go because tomorrow I work and then Saturday I leave and my brain just kind of isn't working. And I feel really kind of conflicted about a few different things at the same time, which makes it hard for my brain to work. So I'm going to take a tyrosine, which I don't usually take, but that's supposed to help with dopamine, which dopamine is kind of the doer. And I need to do some things today. I can't not do things. So I'm wondering if that will help. But it could mess up my sleep even more, but my sleep's already kind of messed up, so I don't know. We'll see. And yeah, so I'm going to take that now, and then I'm going to return that cardia device because it was $130, and I think it's mostly for people who have like atrial defibrillation and things like that, and it's not that useful for me. So I'm going to return that and maybe go and get a smoothie or something and see if I can get a prescription refill. Maybe see if they'll give me more Zopicone in case I need it. And yeah, I'm feeling a little conflicted about leaving. It all feels really strange right now. I'll report back after I take the tyrosine. Whew. I'm not walking and I feel a little bit out of breath. These last couple of days have been a blur. I really don't even know how to start talking about it. And I did talk with myself about it a little bit during the time, and I didn't watch that, so I don't really know what I said. But something else I remember that I'm pretty sure I didn't talk about was that when I was falling asleep and things were feeling all wavy and wonky and I turned over and laid in the fetal position, I remember seeing kind of vividly a friend of mine, like their face, smiling. And I was smiling too. And I was like mirroring their smile, a friend from California. And then at some point today, I remembered that. And I also remembered at some point later on today that before it started happening in October of last year, I saw a different friend of mine from California. And I felt that same kind of love and happy energy. But then it turned into all this scary stuff eventually, like feeling like I need to kill myself. And I was just taking more meds, hoping that I would fall asleep, not trying to kill myself, but also realizing that the gesture I was doing, taking more meds, could eventually kill me, but I was trying to make myself fall asleep. And it was so bizarre. After that, the first part that was bizarre was my heart. It literally felt like there was this circle of energy, because I was laying on this side, on the left side, and that, I think that's where the heart kind of points towards, and it was just a circle of energy. Felt like I was like rocketing into space, like I was nothing, and like everything was complete emptiness. And I could feel my breathing. And I've felt it before when that's happened in scarier times. It felt like at some point my breathing stops and I die or something. Like I felt different experiences of physical death during that. But this time there was no sensation of I'm going to stop breathing. I just kept breathing. And then it eventually stopped when I sort of scratched my face and knew that I was still there. And then when I couldn't sleep after that, I got up and just took a couple more supplements. And then that's when, I don't even know this part, I was laying down and I was sleeping. Like I was in sleep, but I was there was an element of me that was fully awake. And it didn't take long before I realized that I felt like I'd literally just laid down and I watched myself sleep. Like I could kind of feel my face. I could sense my face and how I was breathing and my mouth moving a little bit when sleeping and the rhythmic breathing. But then there was this element there that was just wide awake watching that. And it didn't take long before I realized that I was sleeping. And then I was consciously watching myself sleeping for a while. And then it didn't take long before I was like, well, this is weird. I just want to get up and like make it so I actually go to sleep. And that's when there was this weird waking up thing of like, I heard something say to me, kind of my own voice, say, you've taken too many supplements. You need to medicate yourself. And it was quite clear. And then I kind of woke up, and it felt weird to wake up, but I was in a completely dark room. So I was awake, yet I was still in this completely black, empty space. So it took a second to orient myself. And then I think I might have got up and taken 2 Seroquel, and I couldn't sleep still. And I started crying at some point. I was like, I just want to sleep. And then I realized, well, since I need to sleep, I'm not really experiencing like psychosis per se. Maybe if I take a sleeping pill, and I have Zopiclone. So I took 2 of those. Didn't work for like an hour. And then so I took 2 more, passed out all day, starting at like 7:30 a.m. So I was up all night. At certain points of the night, in between that weird dreaming thing and that first blast off thing, I was thinking, well, if there's a part of me that's awake while I'm sleeping, maybe I could try to go into lucid dreaming or something. That didn't work. I was just trying to find a way to trick my brain into going to sleep, and it wouldn't go to sleep. So, and then what was interesting was how before, yes, the other day, every single time I've had that I can't sleep and my body wakes up scared, something tells me you have to kill yourself. But this time, and it doesn't even feel like it says that, it's just this impulse. But this time it was just this voice that said, you've taken too many supplements, you need to medicate yourself. And that was the big realization today, or one of them, that there was this transition from you need to kill yourself to you need to medicate yourself. And then it kind of went, my brain sort of said, or later I was thinking about it. I was thinking, could almost be that that whole paradigm is invented, so we'll medicate ourselves when we need to. But since we don't know when to medicate ourselves, it has to create this feeling of we have to kill ourselves, because then we know we have to medicate ourselves. That seemed like a bit of a stretch. But then I was like, whoa, that's kind of messed up. So then I was sort of seeing the benefit of medication in a way, like it's part of the universe. It's not really like some outside force outside the universe. It could be deadly in certain amounts, but it can also be helpful. Because I was able to sleep that whole day, and then I was up for a few hours, and then I took my regular night vitamins, 2 quetiapine, and I took 1 zopicone instead of like 4, and I fell asleep all night. So getting that sleep has been helpful, and I think getting enough sleep all along has been helpful. So it feels almost like another layer of consciousness woke up. That whole thing where I laid down, and when I laid down, the moment I laid down, I realized I was already asleep. Like even when I was, like that whole thing was sleeping. That whole life was sleeping. And there's a whole other level. And then when that woke up, it was hard to sleep because the body's not used to sleeping when that other awareness is awake. And I don't know if this is true, but I've had that happen before when my body's fallen asleep and I've been awake. Then I eventually fall asleep, but this was different. It felt more time warpy-ish, time travel-ish, I don't know. And then something that usually happens after having some kind of crisis is I go into lower states of consciousness, like guilt, blame, shame, anger, sadness. So I feel a little bits of elements of those. And I'm trying to realize that all of that is the self. So feeling guilty emphasizes the self. And trying to negate that because I'm getting a gift tonight. So it feels weird to be in this, like, one level of life. There's a crisis going on. One level, it's like a truce. Another level, trying to hold myself together. Another level, realizing there's no self there. Another level, I've always been dreaming, and what is this reality, and what is real, and I have no idea, and things aren't linear, and then trying to pack to go away. Like there's so much happening at the same time. And here I am walking in the woods. And I feel like one of the only ways is to negate the whole movement of the past wanting to come into the present and just being present with what's there, not bringing the whole history in. And instead of saying or feeling guilty via bringing the self in, saying thank you. And you know what? I really don't know if I'll be able to uphold this. It's really, really challenging, especially because it's happened before I've left for my trip. So I don't know if I'll get there, but I really hope I do. I was going to pack a ton of stuff and maybe stay longer, but I think even if I get a little bit of stuff and get there, that's all that matters. I just need to settle into this, I think, and ponder, contemplate, be nothing. And then the other thing that gave me some hope, if you want to call it that, right, the same night that this all started happening, was a couple days ago I wrote down a few notes from a conversation I had with this enlightened master over online. And it was before I was thrown in the hospital. He was saying, oh, it sounds spiritual, but it's good to rule out any medical condition. And he said things like, whatever arises, watch that, don't go with it. Which are wise words, considering lately I've been pondering and talking about, don't go with anything, just don't do. And let it come to you. So then I copied and pasted a few notes into my notes, and then somebody representing him said that he's coming to Vancouver in September. And it's always been on my list of things to do, just to see him and say thank you. Not really, oh, I need help or I need something, but thank you. So that could be something to continue to live towards, and moving towards spirituality, because if I get there, then hopefully I'll be off to California. And yeah, but really practicing this whole no self thing. And it's very subtle, because when there's no self, there's nothing to do, and any doing is the self. So it can almost feel like one's not doing anything, and then that feels selfish. But that's the self coming in the back door, the doer. So I'm seeing the intelligence of walking a lot. I even said in my conversation with him, I said, with regards to sort of falling out of the higher states, I said, is it because I stopped talking to myself? It's kind of funny that I was in dialogue, self-dialogue, and fell out of it. So, yeah, I don't want to pretend that the crisis is over, but if that was a crisis, usually by 3 days, it's over, and then after about a week, it's sort of more on the mend. And it could also be, I didn't say this yet, it could also be that taking the quetiapine daily, the antipsychotic daily, like mitigated the part that would arise as psychosis. Like, could it be possible that taking a bit of antipsychotic makes spirituality easier, or is almost necessary? Wouldn't that be weird? If it were like a crutch to help. What if we saw psychiatry as spiritual? What if psychiatrists thought they were helping people with their spirituality? I think they would go for that before they'd want to ixnay the whole paradigm. Because I didn't talk about that. I've been taking 50 milligrams of quetiapine, and I just had this, I would call it death. Like, that grindy energy was still there today and yesterday, but I feel that heart thing that happened, I think that just discharged a lot of energy from my heart. That's what it felt like. My heart feels lighter, but it feels wary. It feels like, am I really lighter? Or is this one of those very temporary things? So I don't want to pretend this is going to go on for very long. I really don't know. But I made a new friend who has a coffee shop, and it's handy to be able to hang out. I feel like we resonate on a lot of different levels. So, yeah, I've talked about a lot. I'm gonna keep walking. And also, like guilt and blame and shame and all that, and the self. It's all in the realm of cause and effect. The self is cause and effect, so it's staying out of cause and effect. And the you and the I, that's cause and effect. So, blame and shame is cause and effect. Blame, punishment, conflict, reward. Whereas, thank you is gratitude for what shows up, what is. I wonder if one can walk in deep gratitude for what is, what was, what will be. Something that came to me when I was feeling a little bit of that lower energy was people in other countries, they don't even have running water. They don't have sanitation or clean food or whatever. A lot of them don't have electricity or enough to eat. And I'm like whining about a self. So I'm trying to grow up a little bit. Not that any of all that's happened could be helped. It happened. It's not cause and effect. But what else can happen? I really do have all I need. All my basic needs are met. This is really strange. I was walking and I stopped because this kind of looks like a Bodhi tree leaf. It probably isn't. I think Bodhi trees are smoother. But I have some Bodhi tree leaves at home, so I might try to compare it. I don't see any Bodhi tree looking trees around here. Curious. It's a baby bunny.
cry? I didn't put my love whistle on, Bunny. Come here. You're just a little baby. Hey, Bunny. Hi. I found another happy face.
It's funny, I was laying here, connected to the grass, laying on my left side in a fetal position, and I said to the universe, I said, help us, universe. And then I said, co-create with us. And then I turn around and there's a smiley face in the clouds. That was after I drew the smiley face. And then I saw the smiley face on the barn. So I think the universe really is smiling at us right now. The universe painted us into existence. Our whole human beingness. So why wouldn't it be able to paint a smiley face in clouds? That seems pretty elementary compared to creating and evolving the human form. A few minutes ago, a question arose in mind, just appeared in mind. What is dialogue? And after waiting, it came to mind that dialogue is sharing one mind. Or, in summary, dialogue is sharing. And it's a little bit different than, say, telling a story where one is telling and the other is listening or receiving. One might glean bits of information from that, from one's own associations, but one isn't sharing the whole of it, per se. And then I was thinking about it in terms of how sometimes in altered states it seems that people around me play into those awful states of consciousness. In a way, they share in it, or they go into dialogue with that state of consciousness and act out that drama. So can one be in dialogue in daily life, so then the dialogue state doesn't come online only in the lower states where people are comfortable in dialogue, in that people are comfortable in carrying out conflict and drama. I'm not sure how that relates. This morning I woke up and I felt like crap. I took a Zopicone last night. I slept most of the night, but I was sleeping light in the morning. My face even looks different after taking that. And I woke up feeling like crap, and so I figured, how am I going to get packing and ready and go to work today and all that? So I took 1D-serine, which is supposed to be for psychosis, and I took 1,000 milligrams of uridine. The dosage is supposed to be between 2,000 and 5,000, I think, but I just took 1,000, and that one is designated for worse suicidal depression days. And I took about 6,000 milligrams of inositol, and I took 4 caps of SAM-E. I think that's, how much is that? 800 milligrams. And I took a methylfolate and I took a tyrosine. So these are all like real boosters. And I feel like I need a boost to get through today and to get to the island tomorrow. And then I was thinking about the word orthomolecular, which means right molecule. And I was considering how different I felt when I woke up until later on when I took those supplements and things. And I feel completely different. So I was almost thinking, who we are is kind of orthomolecular. Meaning when we have the right molecules, we can manifest in a way that feels more flowy, that doesn't feel so conflicted and feel like versions of ourselves that we would prefer not to manifest as. So we run around creating all this conflict and drama when we need some of the right molecules, and then we can rest in a state where we're able to do what we need to do. So my brain feels like it's working. But with that realization about the orthomolecular thing, it's like, oh crap, I'm not a person. There's nothing there, which feels weird. So I'm wondering if there's orthomolecular medicine to be humanity. Not a person, but all of humanity. And that's something that Krishnamurti teaches, that we're not separate, we're all of humanity. So realizing that, yet still not being able to uphold that all the time, maybe because I don't always have the right molecules, I don't know. So then I was also realizing, I'm like, if I didn't wake up feeling like that, then I wouldn't have taken that other stuff and realized that I could adjust myself in that way. And I don't know if it'll last, because I've never taken the uridine and other things. So we'll see. And I didn't take the St. John's wort because I might try taking trazodone again for sleep. The zopiclone makes me feel a little bit weird, whereas the trazodone really doesn't, but it is an antidepressant, so then I can't take the tryptophan and the St. John's wort, but that's probably only temporary. So we'll see. But I wanted to share that point about the orthomolecular. Yeah. I feel like I'm struggling, but I'm not. There's this awareness that I have everything I need. I live in a wealthy country. I just got gifted a new car. I have clothes. I have food. I have a little bit of money. And yet there's this movement of this self wanting to come in and say that there are reasons for unhappiness and there are reasons to create conflict. And there is conflict and unhappiness in my heart. And I'm seeing that it's all me, or it's all the me. I don't know what is the better way to see it. I could say it's all my fault. I could say I don't know. I had an opportunity to move into a place next to a friend and I didn't take it, and I'm feeling like maybe I should have. I feel so uprooted. I feel like I don't really have a home. And then there's also an awareness that that whole movement, it doesn't matter. Something came to mind: serve others. Serve others. Doesn't seem like rocket science. This whole big tree is rocking in the water. Back and forth, back and forth. I stand here and I can't help but wonder why I feel such an existential, subjective awfulness amongst the beauty of the tall trees. It's cold out. I'm supposed to be going away tomorrow and I don't know if I'll be able to get away. It feels like escaping. Today was hard. I feel really raw inside. I just had the thought of going with a few clothes and a few items that I need and not really bringing that much stuff. I don't really know what the right thing to do is. It feels hard to get there when just a week ago I was functioning so well, being social, energetic, and now it seems I've hit the wall and my brain is not functioning. And the past is present and it makes life hard, and it feels like I'm going to explode. Maybe it's not good to be out and about like this. Maybe it's good to stay in a dark room. I really don't know. I really, really, really don't know. My brain isn't working. I can't remember anything. I thought I filled up my water bottle, but I didn't. Confused. I feel like I can't do this. I feel like the universe is gonna try and kill me so I don't have to kill myself. If I try to kill myself, I just end up in the psych ward. I don't want that. And I don't want to try to kill myself. I just want to sleep. It's cold. There's a geostorm. I saw some lightning. So I made it onto the ferry. I was talking a little bit about that, but there was music playing in the background, which sometimes YouTube doesn't like. So I was going to get the 2 o'clock ferry, but this is the 5 o'clock ferry. I reserved the 2 o'clock ferry a couple weeks ago, In the last few days, I was feeling like I wasn't even going to be able to get on the ferry. So this morning I got up, had a chat with someone, and then packed and left. And I was going to do minimal packing, but I ended up doing a lot more packing than I thought I would. Like, I brought my mini trampoline, my yoga mat, my sleeping bag, and my tent in case I want to stay somewhere else after, or practice camping or something like that. I don't know why I brought them. I just wanted to bring stuff. And yeah, I'm feeling pretty okay. I think having something to look forward to right directly after a crisis is a good thing. Because say I had a crisis and then I ended up in the hospital for a short period of time, what I'd have to look forward to would be clinical visits with psych nurses and clinicians and psychiatrists. But I had a crisis, I got through it on my own. It wasn't that bad, though it did lower my state of consciousness, which seems to want to create drama, but I was able to stay away from most of it. I did have kind of a drama day when I was getting a new car, which isn't coherent, it's not congruent. I'm getting a new car and I'm acting like a grumpy bitch. But I couldn't really help it, and I tried to explain that. And it seemed that by explaining it, they were able to kind of understand. And by them understanding, it didn't create more drama. I was acting kind of grumpy and then I explained myself, versus acting grumpy and then them acting grumpy and then more grumpy, more grumpy. It's just a downward spiral. And then a good conversation today, which kind of explained that sometimes I have trouble explaining myself during that moment, but to say I can't help it. And I said, I don't even understand, so how can I try to explain to help others to understand when I don't even understand? And even explaining it in retrospect isn't it. It's only like a little summary of it. It's not the intensity. So yeah, it seemed to help to say those things and to say that I need a bit of a different living situation with my own mental space. So yeah. I made it onto the ferry. Woohoo! Sanctuary after crisis. I thought I would get to it first, but I didn't. things about being so early for the ferry is that I'll be first off. There's nobody in front of me. I feel so happy to be here. All the bees buzzing. I haven't unpacked yet. I realized I forgot to bring my other almond butter. That's okay. It'll still be there when I get back. And I should have brought some hangers. Other than that, I think I'm good. Coming up to the ocean. I made it in spite of myself. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It feels really good to be here. I was having some anxiety in my heart driving from the ferry here, but it's more or less gone. For now, at least. So we'll see what happens, but